The studio was so bright you could see every bead of sweat. The air buzzed with tension. Cameras rolled, lights glared, and millions watched from around the world. Hillary Clinton sat just 3 seats away from Donald Trump. Between them,
silence heavy.
Enough to break glass then, without warning. Hillary turned Trump. Her eyes were cold steel. "Ibrahim is better than you," she said slowly, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "No one can dethrone. Face America and leave Africa alone." The words hit like a thunderclap. The audience gasped in unison. Trump's face went crimson. His lips trembled, but no sound came out. The camera zoomed in on his frozen expression. Anger, shock, disbelief. On the large studio screen behind them, Captain Ibrahim Traoré appeared in a live feed from Burkina Faso. He didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. His eyes carried a calm power, the kind that didn't need to shout. The world had just witnessed the opening strike, and no one knew what would come next. The studio's air conditioning hummed, but it couldn't cool the heat now. Radiating from Trump's scare, viewers at home were glued to their screens, sensing this was an ordinary political debate. Hillary didn't look away from him, as if daring him to speak. Trump's hands gripped thermrest tightly. He finally leaned forward, forcing a smirk. "You have no idea what you're talking about, Hillary." Gasps rippled again, but this time it wasn't just from his words. It was from the audience members beginning to murmur to each other. Some whispered Ibrahim's name with respect. Others shook their heads in disbelief at Trump would even try to dismiss him. In Burkina Faso, Ibrahim sat at a desk, surrounded by national flags, heckled here the debate through Heiserpiece. His face remained calm, but deep inside, he knew this wasn't just about politics. It was about dignity. It was about respect, not just for him, but for all African leaders who refused to be treated like pawns. The moderator's voice cut in. "Let's move forward," she said. But everyone knew the conversation had just changed forever. As the debate rolled on, the cameras occasionally cut back to Ibrahim. Each time, the crowd's reaction was the same: silent awe. He didn't shout. He didn't wave his hands. He simply listened, high size, steady, and unshaken. In the control room, a producer whispered, "This man's presence, it's magnetic." Meanwhile, Hillary leaned toward her microphone again. "Donald, I've seen leaders who command respect. I've seen leaders who serve their people, not themselves. Ibrahim Traoré is one of them." Trump's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked toward the big screen showing Ibrahim. "Oh, please," he muttered. Booth's voice lacked its usual punch. Somewhere in the back row of the audience, a young African exchange student named Samuel felt tears sting his eyes. He had grown up hearing people mock his countenance. To hear someone like Hillary defend Ibrahim on such a global stage, it was overwhelming. Samuel wasn't alone. Social media feeds lit up jabs about Ibrahim exploded worldwide. The debate wasn't even over, and the story had already begun to travel farther than anyone expected. The studio lights seemed hotter now. Hillary's words still hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. The audience, though seated, felt as if they were standing on the edge of something historic. Trump shifted uncomfortably in his scare. "You are romanticizing a soldier." His sad voice low but sharp. "He's just but moderator." Quickly cut him off. "Mr. Trump, please keep your comments respectful." The big screen behind them showed Ibrahim again. He didn't speak. His calm face said more than any speech could. It was the calm of a man who knew his purpose. The calm of someone who carrieth hopes of millions. In a village far from the studio's glittering lights, a grandmother sat by a radio, hearing the translated broadcast. She remembered when her people's voices were ignored. Now she smiled faintly. Someone was defending them on the world stage. Hillary leaned forward again. "You may underestimate him, Donald, but his history will remember who stood for justice." The room fell into anatheronious silence. Cameras caught Trump's hand tapping nervously against the table. The battle had only just begun. By the next commercial break, the internet was on fire. Hashtags like Amy Stand with Ibrahim and Hillary vs. Trump trended in over 20 countries. Millions of people replayed the clip of Hillary's words. The Ouagadougou, young university student, scrolled around phones and laptops, cheering as they watched the moment. One student whispered, "Finally, they're seeing him for who he really is." Inside the studio, producers were bombarded with messages. Some urged them to cut the segment short. Others begged them to keep the cameras rolling. The control room director muttered, "This isn't politics anymore. This is history." When the cameras came back on, the tension felt even heavier. Trump's eyes narrowed, his voice rising. "Hillary, you're blinded by your feelings for this man. He's no saint." But before Hillary could respond, Ibrahim's voice came meet through the speakers for the first time. Calm, firm. "I don't need to be a saint. I need to be servant to my people." The studio erupted, half applause, half gasps. Hillary smiled. Trump froze somewhere. Across the world, a single sentence had just changed the direction of the night. Samuel, the African exchange student in the back row, felt his throat tighten. He had only been in America for 6 months, but he had already grown, tired of the way people joked about where he came from. Hearing Ibrahim speak so simply, so truthfully, felt like someone had thrown open a window in a stuffy room. His hands trembled as he took out his phone and started recording the moment. He wanted his mother back home to hear Ibrahim's voice, not through headlines, not through rumors, but directly. On stage, Hillary's eyes softened as she glanced at Ibrahim's image on the big screen. She said to Trump, "His leadership." Trump chuckled. Bitterly, but the sound felt out of place. It was the laugh of Simeon losing control. Samuel pressed send on his recording. Within minutes, it reached his village's WhatsApp group. People there gathered on the single phone in the marketplace to listen. Some wiped tears from their cheeks. The night was no longer just a debate. It had become a chain reaction, and no one knew where it would end. The moderator adjusted her microphone. "Captain Traoré, you have the floor." The studio quieted instantly. Even Trump leaned back in his chair, eyes locked on the large screen showing Ibrahim in real time. Ibrahim's voice was calm, almost gentle, yet it filled the room. "I don't come here to argue with anyone. I come here to say Africa is not a playground for foreign powers. My clear, not pieces in a game." Trump's jaw clenched. "And you think you can stand up to the United States?" He fired back. Ibrahim didn't blink. "Stand up for my people, not against anyone, but against injustice." Gasps rippled through the studio. Hillary's lips curved into the small, soft smiles, as if she'd been waiting for its moment. In the front row, a young journalist scribbled furiously. Already knowing tomorrow's headlines would explode in the back row, Samuel's heart pounded. He could feel this wasn't just politics. This was personal. The tension was now so thick, you could almost touch it. As Ibrahim spoke, Samuel's mind wandered back to the dusty streets of Hishamtown. He remembered the day foreign soldiers marched past his school. He remembered his whispers. The decisions about his country were made in distant rooms by people who had never set foot there. Nowhere was a man from his own continent standing, no routed in front of the world and saying, "Enough." Trump leaned toward his microphone, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You talk big for someone who relies on foreign aid." Ibrahim's eyes hardened. "I rely on my people. We rely on Thailand. We protect with our own hands." The audience erupted in applause. Some stood. The moderator tried to quiet them. The energy was unstoppable. Samuel swallowed hard, feeling tears threaten to fall. Beside him, a woman he didn't know retched for his hand and squeezed. In thought, brightly lit studio thousands of miles away, Ibrahim's words were a stitching wound Samuel thought would never heal. The debate took a surprising turn when one of the panelists, a senior European diplomat, leaned forward. "I must say," she began, "I have met man-leaders. Few carry themselves with the dignity I see in Captain Trey." Trump shifted in his seat. "Oh, please," he muttered, but his eyes flicked toward the cameras nervously.
"Donald, what you see is defiance."
"The world sees as integrity, Ibrahim." didn't gloat. He simply nodded in thanks to the diplomat. Heist's expression unreadable, but his presence secondane. Social media lit up again. A trending post read, "He speaks with fewer words than most, yet says more than all of them." In the control room, a producer whispered, "Viewership is paying." Pia Plirant leaving their screens. Back in the audience, Samuel wiped Heist's eyes quickly, not wanting anyone to see. But the woman beside him had tears running freely down her face. She whispered, "It's been too long since we've had Samion speak like this." And deep inside, Samuel knew something enthralled was shifting. The moderator leaned forward. "Captain Traoré, many in the audience admire your composure. How do you remain so calm under such pressure?" Ibrahim's eyes softened slightly. "When you've held theans of mothers who've lost sons tore. When you've buried friends, a few words in a studio cannot shake you." The studio went silent. Hillary glanced at him with a mixture of respect and sorrow. Even Trump stopped fidgeting. Somewhere in the audience, Samuel felt a lump rise in his throat. He thought about his cousin who had never come back from the gold mines. Ibrahim continued, his voice steady but low. "Calm is not weakness. It is that choice. To build instead of destroy." Viewers at home felt something shift. This was no longer just about politics. It was about humanity. Tweets and posts began to pour in. Not with arguments, but with gratitude. One read, "This man speaks like a leader, a wish my own country had." The debate space slowed, but the tension at Wastel climbing. While the cameras focused on Hillary and Trump exchanging barbs, Ibrahim reached for a folded paper on his desk. "Received this yesterday," he said. "It's from a boy named Joseph in a small village. He wrote, 'Dear Captain, please don't let him take our land again. My father says he will, but I told him you will stop them.'" A hush swept the room. Ibrahim held up the letter, its edges worn from travel. "This is why I am here," he said quietly. "Not to win an argument, to keep a promise." In the back row, Samuel couldn't hold back his tears. The woman beside him passed a tissue without a word. Trump opened his mouth, but no sound came. Decamaris caught his hesitation, and millions saw it online. People shared the moment with captions like, "Not all heroes wear suits." The atmosphere in the studio had changed. It felt less like a debate, more like a reckoning. Hillary straightened her back, her voice firm. "This is what leadership looks like. Not loud threats, not empty promises, but a man who can carry through it of an entire nation's hopes on his shoulders." Trump scoffed, but their action in the studio told a different story. Even those who weren't fans of Hillary found themselves nodding. Ibrahim simply bowed his head slightly in thanks. He wasn't here to bask in praise. Then Hillary did something unexpected. She turned to the camera and addressed the millions watching at home. "Y'all think the world needs leaders who serveth people, not themselves? Remember tonight." The applause was thunderous. In Burkina Faso, crowds were gathering in cafes and markets to watch the live stream. Some stood shoulder to shoulder, eyes fixed on every word. Old men, women with children, teenagers in school uniforms, all united in a rare moment of shared pride. For many, this wasn't just television. This was history unfolding in real time. The debate had been intense, but now it felt like something was about to snap. Trump leaned forward, voice sharp. "Captain Traoré, you speak of promises, but can you deliver them? You can't stand against the machine." Ibrahim didn't flinch. "I don't have to stand against a machine. I have to stand with my people. That's the difference." The audience erupted again, but this time with noise. Wasn't just applause. There was chanting. Someone in the back begins shouting, Ibrahim, until dozens joined in. The moderator looked uneasy. The producers in the control room whispered frantically. This was no longer their debate. It belonged to the people watching. Trump's face darkened. "You think this crowd makes you strong?" Crowds disappear. Power stays. Ibrahim met his gaze through the screen. Power fades. But love for one's people, that stays forever. Hillary's eyes glistened. She knew this moment would live far beyond tonight. From the audience, a woman stood up unexpectedly. She wasn't part of the program. Her voice trembled.
"Captain Chair.
"I am from Mali.
Done.
My son deed protecting his village from foreign-backed rebels. No one ever spoke for him until now. The studio froze. Security moved toward her, but Ibrahim raised a hand. Let her speak. Tears streamed down her face. When I hear you talk about protecting our land, I feel my boy didn't die for nothing. Even Trump didn't interrupt. Hillary's lips tightened as she held back tears. Ibrahim's voice softened. Your son lives in every step we take to protect our homes. His courage is not forgotten. The woman sat down, sobbing into her scarf. Round her, strangers retched out, placing hands on her shoulders. Millions watching at home felt their throats tighten. Twitter. Timelines went quiet for Amamant, as if the world paused to breathe. The moderator tried to steer the conversation back to the prepro-dopics, but Ibrahim leaned slightly forward. There's something the public doesn't know, he said. Weeks ago, I was offered a private deal, foreign aid in exchange for military access to Ireland. I refused. Gasps filled the room. Trump shifted uncomfortably. You're saying Ibrahim? Continued that sometimes what is called help is a chain around your neck, and I will never put that chain on my people. The studio's atmosphere shifted from tense to electric. Hillary nodded slowly. That's what courage looks like. On social media, journalists scrambled to verify his claim. The story was already going viral. In West Africa, people gathered around radios, some crying openly as they heard his words in translation. Samuel felt his heart racing. He had never seen anyone speak truth to power so plainly in a vetted moment. But the night wasn't over. The most dangerous part was still to come. The studio was silent. Too silent, the air felt heavy, as if everyone was holding their breath. Donald Trump's hands gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles pale. Hillary Clinton sat across from him, eyes locked, refusing to look away. The moderator's voice broke the silence. Mr. Trump, one last question. Why should America interfere in Africa's affairs? Trump smirked, leaning toward the microphone. Because without us, Africa would stop. Hillary's voice sliced through the air like a blade. You talk as if Africa is weak, but I've met Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He's strong, he is wise, and he is more respected by his people than you ever will be. No one can dethrone him. Gasps rippled. Through the audience, cameras swung toward Trump's face, catching the twitch of his jaw. On the large studio screen behind them, a live feed showed Ibrahim watching calmly from Burkina Faso, a quiet fire in his eyes. Trump shifted uncomfortably. The audience leaned forward. Something in the air had changed. This wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about dignity, pride, and truth. The live feed flickered, and suddenly Ibrahim Traoré's voice filled the studio. Calm, steady, unshakable. Hillary. Thank you, he began, his French-accented English carrying a weight that drew everyone in. But this is not about me. It's about every African child who grows up being told they are less than someone else. The camera zoomed in on him. His eyes were firm, but there was pain in his voice. I grew up seeing my people work hard every day, yet being told their dreams belong to another land. We do not want charity. We do not want pity. We want respect. The audience's silence wastic with emotion. Even Hillary's eyes simmered. Trump leaned back, his smirking. He looked smaller. Ibrahim's voice grew stronger. America must face its own problems. Let Africa build itself. Our hands are not empty. They're building a future. A single clap broke the silence. Then another until the studio erupted. Into applause so loud it drowned out everything else. Some in the audience had tears streaming down their cheeks. This wasn't politics anymore. It watched the story unfolding. Hillary stood. So did the moderator. So did almost every person in the audience. The applause roared like a storm echoing across the walls of the studio. Trump sat frozen, his eyes darting between the screen and the crowd. Ibrahim simply smiled from the live feed, nodding once. His humility only made the moment more powerful. I will say this to every young African watching, Ibrahim continued. Do not wait for someone to give you permission, Tories. Stand now. Your worth does not depend on who sits in the White House. People in the audience sobbed openly. Some hugged each other. Kamaris got every tear, every clenched fist, every proud smile. The moderator's voice cracked as he closed the segment. Ladies and gentlemen, history, the feed faded. The studio lights dimmed. But the feeling, that burning pride stayed. My friends, if this moment touched your heart, don't just watch and leave. Hit the like button so the world knows this truth matters. Subscribe so you never miss a story that speaks for justice. And most importantly, drop a comment right now. Tell me what would you say to Captain Ibrahim if he was reading your words tonight? Your voice matters. Let's make it heard.